The Wave Rebellion Pro 3 is one of the crazier looking super shoes on the market, and that's saying something nowadays with all the different crazy designs. But Mizuno came out with a more accessible version as well, and today we're going to break down the differences. So today we're comparing the Wave Rebellion Pro Low with the 3. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod, and you're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Now if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to the various parts of this video, but if you do so, I'd sure appreciate if you come back, watch the full thing when you get a sec, as I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. Now, quick disclaimers and disclosures are that I did receive both of these shoes directly from Mizuno for the purpose of review. That being said, I'm not paid, I'm not given talk tracks, talking points, no one watches the videos beforehand, and all thoughts are entirely my own. Now, as far as intended use of these shoes, they're really, they're super shoes, so they're meant to be used for the marathon and to run fast, right? Now, as we know, super shoes and plated shoes in general can also be used at shorter distances. Really, they're just going to be speed-oriented shoes and not necessarily be made for daily use. As such, that's how we're going to be talking about them today. Now, from a price perspective, the price is fairly close, but the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 does cost a little bit more at $250 versus the Low at $230. Now, functionally, they're basically the same. Why does the Pro 3 cost a little bit more? Well, probably because of that stack. There's just more material overall. Speaking of that stack, let's talk about the specs. So from a specs perspective, this is going to be pretty much the main difference between the two shoes, because otherwise the materials are the same. But from a weight perspective, the Low comes in at 7.6 ounces, which is 215 grams. The 3 comes in at 7.7 ounces, which is 218 grams. Then the Low has 45 in the heel, 40.5 in the forefoot for a 4.5 millimeter drop. And the Pro 3 has a 61 millimeter heel, 57 millimeter forefoot for a 4 millimeter drop. Now you may be asking, well, how is that race legal? Doesn't it have to be under 40 for the pros? And that's because the World Athletics Association, or whatever it's called, they measure right about at the midpoint of that heel. So there's a specific point where it is technically under 40 millimeters for the relevant sample size that they need. But that's really going to be one of the main things here. You can see that because of how Mizuno really cuts out that heel aggressively, they're able to get a lot more foam underfoot, but it also puts you at a pretty aggressive geometry or pretty aggressive angle, versus with the Pro Low, it's it's more of a standard overall geometry. Now from a fit perspective, the fit's the same for both, and I would say that they run narrow for the most part. From a length perspective though, both are true to size. Now from a upper perspective, it's the same upper, it's an engineered mesh, right? So same level of breathability. If you haven't watched the reviews on either of those, on either of these, feel free to go back to those for a more comprehensive breakdown. I really want to just highlight mainly the differences between the two. So what I'll say with this is, you'll notice I used a runner's knot there on the Pro 3. I didn't use a runner's knot on the Pro Low. The reason being is, with the geometry of the Pro 3, you're really up on your toes. And so without the runner's knot, I found that I did shift forward in the shoe, because there is some heel slippage for the most part. Now with the Pro Low, I did have that same heel slippage, but it wasn't enough to necessitate that runner's knot. And so I was totally fine with it this way. Now, if I was racing in the shoe, I probably would use the runner's knot just for that extra security, but I feel like you get decent midfoot lockdown in the two for the most part. For those longer runs, again, I needed the runner's knot so I wasn't shifting forward too much and hitting my toes. The Pro 3 is just a very aggressive geometry. Moving to the midsole, the material is the same. It's Mizuno Energy XP. It's that supercritical TPEE with a carbon fiber wave plate. But again, the difference is going to be that aggressive cutout. Now, obviously you can't really heel strike in this shoe, because you kind of almost get stuck right there on the back of the midsole. When compared to the Pro Low, it's going to be a little bit more standard. Now, from a responsiveness standpoint, it is the same. I will say that I felt like I had to work a little bit harder just to get that same level of propulsion in the Pro Low when compared to the Pro 3. From a stability standpoint, as you would imagine, the Pro Low is going to be a lot more stable. But one of the things that I want to call out too is, with kind of this aggressive geometry, with you up on your toes a lot more, I felt like my calves fatigued really, really fast in the Pro 3. And again, I think that that should be obvious as to why that is, right? You definitely get a little bit more from the Pro 3 though. Again, there's more foam, there's more bounce, more responsiveness. The Pro Low feels a little bit more that like where you can get aggressive, you can dial it in. Like I think I said in the review of the Pro Low, it's a shoe that I would actively sprint in, right? Where there's a lot of super shoes where I don't feel like they're great for sprinting. They're good for marathon pace over a long period of time, or, you know, short, fast intervals like 400-meter repeats, sure, but I'm still not going all out dead sprint in those. I feel like the Pro Low is a shoe that I can kind of attack the ground with, where the Pro 3 already is just very aggressive on its own, but it's a lot more of a bouncy kind of bounding stride overall. All in all, I really like the Mizuno Energy XP foam. Again, if you want a little bit more detail on that foam and how it compares to other foams, watch the full review of the Pro Low, because I talk a little bit more about like the Neo Vista 2 as well as the Wave Rebellion Flash 3, both of which I think those foams are softer than the foams that you have in these shoes. I will say also that the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 does feel a little bit softer, but I think it's just from the sheer volume of the foam in the midsole. So the G3 rubber outsole is really, really good overall between the two. The banded pattern outsoles are some of my favorite. I just feel like you get some really, really good grip, and you don't add a ton of weight because they're it's just cutouts across the board. So I really, really think they do a great job, and both of these have held up super, super well for me for the most part. So they do well on wet surfaces as well. Great overall outsole, and the G3 rubber is top notch as well. So now as far as, you know, my pick goes, I really like the Pro Low. The Pro Low is in kind of my tier 2 of super shoes. My tier 1 is really going to be Metaspeed Ray, R3, and Pro Evo 2. And then my tier 2 is going to be probably like Hyperion Elite 5, Pro Low, and like, you know, there's a few that are kind of on the fringe there, but that's kind of how I'm stack ranking my super shoes right now. I think unless you're a 4-foot striker, obviously the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 is just not going to be the move for you. But surprisingly, there have been a lot of people who have chosen this shoe for high rocks. I think that the Pro Low is going to give you everything people love about the Pro 3 for high rocks, but in a much more approachable, much more capable for the masses, dare I say, kind of high rocks shoe. I still think that there are better super shoes for high rocks personally, just that are going to give you a more stable base, but people really, really like the grip on these, and so that's one of the standouts overall. Anyway, just some final thoughts. I really like what Mizuno did here, and if you have seen some of the leaks, or not even leaks, they've released it themselves. There's 3 new super shoes coming out from Mizuno at the end of the year leading into 2026, and they essentially have like your top tier super light. It's the Metaspeed Ray, the Pro Evo 2 competitor, right? Like the crazy, crazy light version. You have the kind of Pro version, which is maybe the and I don't remember the naming of it, but they use like Pro, Elite, and Pure. And I can't remember if the Pro or the Elite is the better one, but you have kind of the mid tier, which is probably going to be the Wave Rebellion 3, and then you have like the everyman tier, which is going to be the Pro Low. I mean, that's already kind of how they look at this, is like, this is your top tier, this is your everyman tier, right? So going to be really, really cool. Mizuno's going to have super shoe options, and I like that brands have done this. You have that with the Alpha Fly and the Vapor Fly, the Endorphin Elite versus the Endorphin Pro, the Pro Evo 2 versus the Adios Pro 4, Metaspeed Tokyos versus Metaspeed Ray. So I think it's cool to see the recognition that, you know, not everyone is a pro runner, but we still want pro runner technology. And we even see some trickle down into super trainers, super trainers and plated trainers as well. So all in all, the running shoe world is in a great spot. So, but yeah, just, you know, if you watch this far, I sure appreciate you. Let me know in the comments what questions you have about the shoes. If there's anything I can answer a little bit more about the differences between the two, and what other kind of comparisons you guys would like to see in my videos. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, turning on notifications, as well as utilizing any of the links in the description below. I have affiliate links and affiliate codes to Wallaco, where if you want some running tights, their distance half tights are my favorite. Rad Dad 20 gets you 20% off. If you want some running fuel, whether that's, gels, electrolytes, post-run snacks, just healthy snacks overall, use the affiliate link to Fuel Goods in the description below. Both give me a kickback that I put towards the channel to continue to invest in this and help it grow. So, at the end of the day, I appreciate any support, appreciate you guys for sticking around this far. And let's just wrap up with a question, which is, do you typically go for the top tier super shoe or more the everyman super shoe from brands? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks everybody.